So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for participating in today's information session on the Deposit Data Requirements version 3 that was issued for consultation a couple of weeks ago. Before we begin, please note that this meeting is being recorded and information is being collected under Section 26C of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. It will be edited and posted on the website, so for confidentiality, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions or concerns regarding the recording, please contact the BCFSA Stakeholder Engagement Team, and information will be provided in the chat whom you can contact. So the goal of today's session is to provide you with information on the differences between the previously issued version 2 requirements and the new version 3 requirements. After today's session, we're planning to meet with you, and after you've had the opportunity to review the document and provide us with comments. This meeting will be scheduled for late June or early July. Thank you for the engagement with the team on the V2 requirements today. And each individual credit union will receive the version 2 test results document. Some of you may have already received this document, and for others, it is in the process of being sent out over the next week via SFTP. Annalyn, if you could please turn to the next slide. I would like to introduce a team who you'll be engaging with over the next hour and a half. We have Pamela Skinner, the QDIC Operations COO and VP of Regulatory Services with BCFSA on the line with us today. We have Robert Dick, who is the Manager of Fund Management, who is available to answer any questions around V2. We have Noelle Fontanilla, who's the Manager of Risk Assessment and Pricing, and Noelle will be hosting the session throughout this afternoon. We also have Sanjeev Rajappa, who is not actually listed on this slide, but he is also available during the session. We have Paula Augusta, Deposit Insurance Analyst, and we have Christina Panango and Annalyn Perez, who are part of our stakeholder engagement team. And I am Antonia Perlich. I'm the Director of QDIC Operations. Thank you all again for attending, and Noelle, if you would please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia. Next slide, please, Annalyn. So here's the agenda for today's meeting. Before we get started, some housekeeping notes. Please mute your microphones. You are welcome to use the chat function to make any comments during the session. We will provide time for questions at the end of the information session, where you can ask for clarification or provide any comments that you may have. Next slide, please. Purpose of the consultation. Next slide. The purpose of today's session is to provide an overview of the new fields included within V3 of the deposit data requirements. The purpose of the consultation is to gather the credit union system's feedback on the enhancements made to V2 of the data requirements. The feedback provided will help to determine if any additional data is required to achieve an accurate deposit insurance payment. Further, it will help QDIC to confirm the operational processes that should be used to determine deposit insurance payment amounts. Next slide, please. The following slides will provide some background on the payout process and the role of the depositor data within the process. Next slide, please. This is a high-level diagram of the payout process. As shown, the first step within the process is to go through other resolution options. For example, amalgamation and merger. If the resolution options are not feasible solutions, the process then moves to pre-failure preparation to ensure that BCFSA and QDIC are prepared for payout. If payout is chosen as the only option for resolution, then closure and payout processes are actioned. Please note, this diagram is included within the V3 data requirements document. Next slide, please. Within the payout process, deposit liability data is required to determine insurance payments. The data will be used to determine a deposit payout amount, which will be paid to credit union members through check or wire transfer. Registered plans, such as RRSP, RESP, RDSP, and TFSAs, will be transferred to a successor financial institution. Next slide, please. Here are the 7 steps taken to send out deposit insurance payments. This consultation will help to ensure that step 1 and 2 of the above process have the necessary data to perform payout determination. The more complete and accurate the data provided, the quicker the payout amounts can be determined and payment executed. Next slide, please. There will be 2 data extract formats that will be requested, one with mass data and one without. Test data extracts. Test data extracts will contain masked personal identifiable information, such as name and address. This extract will help QDIC to understand the depositor profiles of each credit union and can then work with each credit union to increase understanding of the operational processes required doing a payout. First submission of the V3 data extracts must be made no later than June of 2023. Subsequent data submission requests will be made at a minimum of every 3 years or earlier based on a risk-based approach. Staged data extracts. Staged data extract will be requested on a risk-based approach. These extracts will have unmasked personal identifiable information and will be used to prepare for the worst-case scenario of a payout. QDIC will work internally with the supervision team to determine when staged data is required. Next slide, please. The next slides will show the additional fields included within V3. I will not go through each of the additional fields in detail during this presentation, but we'll go over the major changes that have been made within each of the data extracts. Please enter any questions or comments that you may have within the chat. Next slide, please. The major enhancements between V2 and V3 data requirements can be seen within these 4 extracts: the account extract, the customer extract, account joints extract, and hold transactions extract. Next slide, please. Account extract. Account extract data is required information necessary for the calculation of the deposit insurance payment amounts. Information such as depositors' principal balance, accrued interest, product maturity, and start dates are contained within this extract. Product type. We have included the product type field in V3 to help identify the type of deposit accounts of each credit union member. This data can then be used to apply the appropriate process to complete deposit insurance payout calculations. Next slide, please. In V3, we have also requested more information on index-linked products within the account extract. Index-linked products are complex and requires additional data to capture all of the product details required for the calculation of the accrued interest. As such, we've requested the following fields: index-linked, strike data or strike date, sale rate, minimum return rate, and max return rate. We believe that including these data fields will help to ensure that QDIC will be able to accurately calculate the accrued interest for the index-linked products. However, we are looking to you, the experts of these products, to provide feedback during this consultation to determine if we have the necessary information to accurately determine the total payout amount for index-linked products. Next slide, please. Lastly, within the account extract, we have asked for data on the FSR line numbers to help QDIC in the reconciliation process during the test and staged data processes. The next slides will provide examples of the data requested. Next slide, please. The table in this is an example of the requested minimum return rate and maximum return rate fields. Further, it provides the sale period and the strike date, which is the end of the sale period. At the end of the sale period, the product will then begin to be linked to a market index, and the floor and ceiling rate of return of the product is now the minimum and maximum return rates. Next slide, please. As a reminder, please note that within the extracts, accrued interest must be a positive value. Next slide, please. Customer extract. The customer extract will help to identify the depositors of the credit union. Information includes data such as customer identifiers and contact details. As noted on a previous slide, personal identifiable information fields will be masked for test data extracts and unmasked for the staged data extracts. New data requirements within the customer extract include domestic politically exposed person, or domestic PEP, and anti-money laundering, or AML flags. This data will help to identify possible domestic PEP and AML issues on a particular account. Further, we have included address modification and mailing list validation data. This information helps to ensure that QDIC has the most up-to-date mailing address to send check payments to. Next slide, please. We have also included primary contact information to allow QDIC to contact credit union members should there be any issues with their mailing address. Personal ID type will help us with know your client processes should we need to contact or be contacted by the credit union member. Next slide, please. Some additional fields that we've included in V3 are the customer type and savings institution flags. Next slide, please. Account joint extracts. Within the account joint extract, we have included the payee flag. This payee flag will help QDIC determine who must be on the final payment, on the final check, or on the final wire transfer. I will now hand it over to Paula, who will go over the hold transactions extract and additional items for consideration.
Thank you, Noel. Next slide, please. We are now on the hold transactions extract section. This extract is being used to identify any holds placed within the accounts, and it should not contain any historical holds that have been released. QDIC has analyzed the submissions of various credit unions to create the list of reasons for a hold. In the event of payout, these categories will be helpful to determine the standardized due diligence needed to resolve the hold and release the account. We have produced these 7 hold reasons within the slide and have included the other reason to encompass hold reasons that do not fit within the other 7 categories. Please provide any additional reasons in your feedback that your institution may want to include in the above list. Next slide, please. The following table shows a few issues we may encounter when processing this extract. Row 1 provides an example where the format of business date is incorrect. All dates must be in year, month, date format. Row 2 provides an example where garnishment is provided in the holds extract and also in accounts extract, resulting in a possible duplication. Row 3 provides an example where the hold type is not provided. Every transaction in the holds extract must have the hold type. Next slide, please. On this next slide, we will talk about one more additional item for consideration. Next slide, please. The table represents example of withholding tax amount and non-resident tax amount fields requested in the account extract. The amount of -$100 is the tax amount year-to-date calculated and not yet deducted from the principal. This means that in the final payment, the amount will be deducted from the principal amount. For example, on the first row, the final payment will be $700 from 800 subtracted by 100. And on the second row, the final payment will be $400 from 500 subtracted by $100, all else being equal. That's the end of this slide. Over to you, Noel.
Thank you, Paula. Next slide, please. We would like to open the floor for any questions at this time. Please enter your questions in the chat. And I see we do have one question regarding stage data extract. Does this apply to CUs that are staged or actually under administration? So we will be working with our the supervision team to ensure that we are applying a risk-based approach and working with them to really identify when we should be asking for staged extracts. So it will more likely be in situations where the credit union in question is within higher CRR ratings and also within higher ISR ratings. And then we also have another question. For the index-linked products, they are offered through Central One. Can the information not be gathered directly from them? So we will be working with Central One with regards to information for index-linked. We will reach out to them to find out more information as to how they would and how they would go about calculating the accrued interest and also the additional fields that they may use. We need to prepare for situations where Central One is not the index link provider. Are there any other questions at this time? Paula, were there any questions that you received?
No, I don't see anything else.
Okay. Great. Next slide, please. Thank you for your questions. If we have not answered your questions or you would like to get further clarification, please contact the QTIC team through the email in the next slide. This slide contains the operational questions that we would like to have answered within your written responses. The answers to these questions will help us to improve our operational knowledge and increase our ability to quickly and accurately pay out credit union members in a payout event. Next slide, please, Annalyn. All written feedback can be sent to depositinsurance@bcfsa.ca. Please reach out to us if you would like to schedule a one-on-one session during the month of May. This time may be used to speak about the changes to V2 data requirements or to discuss V2 test results.
Well, there is another question in the
Okay.
chat that's come through.
Sure. So I'll read out the question. Index link products are linked to the TSX with a return that could be minimum and the maximum would depend on the market. Is this, can I get further clarification on the question? Or is this more of a clarification for us to go through and make sure that we are able to get the TSX? But we'll take that into, we'll make notes of that and we will take that into our process for determining the index link products. Another question just came in as well. Does QDIC have any current expectations of frequency of data provisions by staged credit unions? Again, we will be working with our supervision team to make sure that we are asking for stage data when appropriate. I don't think we have a frequency expectation as of yet. It will have to be, you know, in terms of the level of risk that the credit union is under, and also the stage rating, so that we can ensure that we are as prepared as possible for a payout event if that is necessary.
Yeah, and just to add to that, these again are the higher staged credit unions, and just to give you an estimate, it'll be approximately stage 3 or higher. So it is based on the discussions and their understanding of, again, what is the risk posed and where within the staging and the issues at hand.
Thanks, Antonia. Some questions are coming in now as well. So where are all extracts submitted stored? How long does QDIC store the data extracts for? And would CUs get confirmation that any extracts submitted are properly destroyed? I'll take a crack at this, but I will also ask Robert and/or Sanjeev to step in. From the data extracts, I believe that they are all stored within our cloud infrastructure at BCFSA. And then also, how long is the data stored? So as soon as we are finished with our analysis and we are able to provide and create our reports, we will be destroying the data. And so removing that data from our I guess, our storage systems.
Yep, that's correct. Nothing else to add.
Another question, can you get the information from Central One if they are the trustee for our registered products? Again, we will have to check with regards to the registered products. We do have time set out in the next few weeks with Central One to answer some of these questions. And if we can get the information directly from Central One, that'll be something that we will pursue. And then why is all the additional and personal information required if the CU is not in a failing or stage position? So again, the additional personal information for test data will be masked. So we won't be using that data in our regular testing and ongoing monitoring. It is only when a credit union is staged for when those fields will be unmasked. So that's when we will start creating our depositor profiles in more detail for each customer and each credit union member.
And I'll just add to that, Noel, that is where we're approaching potential failure at that time, we would be seeking as part of our preparatory work to have that unmasked data. But for the testing purposes, that's information is to remain masked.
Thanks,
And
Antonia.
no problem. And I do see actually one question just regarding the V2 test results. As I mentioned sort of early on at the beginning, and perhaps you didn't catch that, was that the individual credit union V2 test results are in the process of being distributed. So some folks may have received it already. If not, you will be over the next short while. So that should be coming your way if you haven't already received that information. And it is being sent out via SFTP. Thank you.
Yeah, and if there are, again, any additional questions or any clarifications that are required, please do send those to the CUDIC email. So that's depositinsurance@bcfsa.ca, and we will get back to you as soon as we can with any of your questions.
And just to remind everyone again that, the V3 requirements are, as we said, out for consultation. So there's 3 months to review, to absorb and understand the content that's there for you to also then put forward your feedback and questions and comments. And then after the consultation is closed, which will be June 21st, and we've received all your comments at that point, we will be scheduling another session afterwards to review your comments that you've had, that you've provided, some of our feedback on them. And then that will go into our process and evaluation before the final version of the requirements are released. And that would be at the end of the fall. So again, this is the consultation session. So it's 3 months for you to review the content that's provided, understand the differences between the version 2 and 3, and we'll have an opportunity for discussion around this as well after the consultation.
And then again, as you can see on the slide, please do reach out to us if you want to have that one-on-one session, and to speak about, either of the V2 enhancements or the V2 test data requirements. Any other questions before we move on to the last slide? So one question, this goes into effect for 2023. When considering this, did BCFSA take into consideration how CUs would extract this info and the impacts to the resources and budgets? So this will go into effect in 2023, and we can have discussions with each of the credit unions to ensure that we are, meeting the requirements, but also, making sure that we are working with each of you to get this idea around the extracts and implementation of the extracts. So we can speak about that. Again, please reach out to us with regards to that and any concerns from that perspective. Will we know before June if you can get information from Central One on deposits held by them? Yes, we will be working, as I said, in the next month or so with Central One to ensure that we are able to retrieve as much data as we can from, I think there were comments on here about the registered plans, but also from other deposits that you may have with Central One. We will talk to them about that. Any additional questions before we move on? Okay. Next slide, please, Annalyn. So on behalf of the stakeholder engagement team and the CUDIC team, I would like to thank each of you for taking time out today to participate in this information session, but also want to thank you in all of your work to help us within this consultation, providing your feedback and any of your comments with regards to the V3 data requirements. And as Antonia said, we will be looking forward to your feedback throughout the 3 months, and we will be scheduling another session in either late June or early July to go over next steps as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.